Welcome, Sacramento soccer fans, to the State of the Republic podcast. I'm your host, Luis, and this episode is something that we actually were not planning on recording. You guys heard us in the last podcast episode, but after a game like last night's game, we've had to record something. So we'll make sure we can have something here for you guys to talk about, because we just could not talk about Saturday's game and this one. So as you guys know, we played against El Farolito in the US Open Cup, so we'll be talking about the overtime win against them, and we'll make some comments also about what we all saw happened after the game, which a lot happened there. We're still all trying to figure out exactly all the things that went down, because there was a lot that happened. And then of course we'll just look at podcast winner dinner, because a lot of points were given out, and a lot has changed since a few days ago. As we mentioned, that was going to happen. So we'll take a look at that. And then we'll just look forward to the upcoming game on Saturday. So we'll try to keep this one a little bit shorter, because we're just going to cover one game. So Saturday's game will have a lot more coverage, and we won't have to share it with yesterday's game. So let's go ahead and introduce our full team here. First, let's go over to Texas with Jared. How's it going, man?
There we go. Now the mic decides to work. Going pretty good. It's finally warming up. It's no longer mini winter again, but of course, I got to get the Red Bull here, given the match barely ended before midnight last night, given the extracurricular activities. But we are going to discuss the match and some other parts of that. So, let's get into it.
Yeah. Next, let's go over to Elk Grove with Sharon. How's it going, Sharon? How are you the day after the game?
Well, I am a little bit tired, because I did stay up and I rewatched several parts of the match on YouTube, and then of course kind of went through the Brawl, and then had to settle a conversation that I was having with Rian and you, and also my sister, about how Ajaga scored the second goal, because I thought I saw one thing, but then I was wrong. So I said, hey, I was wrong. And so it must feel good for all of you guys, especially Rihanna is going to come on next, when I say you were right. So anyhow, I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, no, it must feel good. Now, we'll talk about it later, but there was something Rian wasn't right, and it's something that we talk about after we talk about the game. Sorry, Rian. I know we'll see how long I'm in the first floor, but how's it going, Rian? Or I should say in the top floor, not the first floor.
Yeah, yeah, can we count that as a point for the winner dinner? Just cause, but yeah, I'm just like the rest of y'all. I'm tired. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep because I was up late working on the match recap, which honestly might have been a bad idea, but who cares? Yeah, I still don't know what I watched last season. I mean, last match. Wow, last night.
Oh, we're starting early.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. just if y'all want to know.
The data guy's CPU kind of blew a cog.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you. I feel like after the game we saw yesterday, a lot of people probably were left like that, right? Because they're like, wait, what's going on? Like, are you watching UFC on a Wednesday night, US Open Cup edition? Because I don't know. I mean, Sharon, you've been with the team since the beginning, and you got to work with the team. Did we ever have a fight that, a player actually go to the stands before, or a fight that broke out that lasted maybe more than a minute? Or
well, remember last time with the guy that got beat up by the drumstick?
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. So there was that, and that was pretty brutal. It was the supporters group. However, I don't remember if a player came into the stands or not. But if I recall, I think that may have been a situation quickly resolved. However, I mean, these players didn't, because they lost, there's no repercussion from the coach to say, if you do that again, you're not going to play in the next Open Cup round. They're not playing in the next Open Cup round. So there is no repercussion for the players doing whatever what they think they need to do. However, that being said, well, we'll talk about it later. there's some validation that the players' families were being whatever, harangued, harassed, whatever. But I don't know if any of that is true. Luis, you saw some things. Rion, you saw some things. We all watched Will's video, you know, and we watched K-Series video. So there was a lot of different components. But we'll talk about that later because there was a heck of a game to, you know, talk about, you know, as far as what we did with trying to break down their low block, all of those things. So Luis, take it.
Yeah, from what I hear, mixed feelings amongst all the fans, right? In terms of the game, and I'll be curious to hear the fans who thought it was a good game, like what the reactions were to that. But yeah, I mean, it was a 2-0 overtime win against El Farolito. We never thought that we would actually take it to overtime, hence why podcast winner dinner, none of us was brave enough to say, yeah, there could be extra time, right? It's the first round. This is a team that, again, hadn't played since August, as far as we know, right? I know Rion, in his match recap, right, you mentioned that there really was no information. They canceled some of their like preseason games, but this team looked like they were actually in season and halfway through the season, because this was the team we saw like last year all over again. I will say they shut me down for sure because they gave it their all. I mean, they took us to extra time, and it could have been taken to penalty kicks easily, right? I mean, they were just going at it. I will say, though, that partially it was also because of our players, and I don't know if it was because they felt like, okay, this is a amateur semi-pro team, whatever you want to call them, and that's why they didn't take them seriously, because they feel like some players could fall into that trap. But I just felt like there's a lot of players that we know the potential they have. We know the kind of player they are in USL. But in this match, it seemed like we were playing in their same league, at least in the first and second half before overtime.
So if you read Rion's post, which I did, and I scanned and I read Quell City Soccer, I read quite a few things. It was really evident that we did dominate. You know, we had all the possession, we had all the chances, we had the majority of the shots. So we were penetrating their low block. Remember, the Burrito Boys are comprised of a team of former professionals from other locations, other countries, Central America, South America. These guys are actually really good players when they were younger, and they're still really good players. It's like playing against a brain. These guys have soccer smarts. And remember, the run-up, the podcast we did in the run-up, we talked, or I did, that it will feel chaotic. And did it feel chaotic, you guys? 100%. That's their game. They throw chaos in these types of matches. And I'm sure they do it in their league when they play. I mean, they are the masters of chaos. And they are the masters of, and you're going to talk about it, time wasting, which interrupts the flow of the game. And if a referee is not paying attention and watching the clock, it actually shortens the game for everybody. They're masters of ticky-tacky fouls, which we hate, but they're the kind of fouls that should be called, otherwise known as clocking a guy from the back. We saw that how many times? A guy get pushed from the back when he was getting ready to get on the ball, like along the outside lane, and then he gets shoved. And he's out of bounds, and he took the ball with him, and they get the throw. So this team did exactly what they were planning to do. But when we had the ball and when we were doing smart things, we had the possession. So, Rion, I know you did all the stat work on this. I know you're going to back me up.
Yeah, I want to add on to the point of the composition of El Farolito. Like, they also brought in like a couple of players who are younger but are still aiming to be professionals in America. They just haven't had an opportunity yet, and El Farolito is their opportunity. So there are players that you might see later on grow into their careers, and they will start with El Farolito. But to your point, Sharon, Sacramento swamped El Farolito in the numbers games. They had as many corners as they had shots. Sacramento, 20 shots, 20 corners. Like that's an insane stat. Honestly, like, how do you get 20 corners in a game? Absurd. what I saw in the match is El Farolito came in organized despite this being their first professional match of the year. They were organized, they were sat back in the low block, which is a tactic that we've seen Sacramento has struggled against. And we saw Sacramento default to getting the ball out wide and putting in crosses, which, proved successful, which is, maybe there is something to that with the set of strikers this year. I don't know. The midfielders looked great for Sacramento. I want to shout out Bonner. He was amazing on the ball. Arturo Rodriguez, great creator. Pep Costas had a showing as well. He was great. Willie was a great defensive standout. He made a last ditch effort when Alfarolito was on the counterattack before the end of regulation, like just to save us a little bit. So, great showing all around from the midfielders. But yeah, Sacramento had the chances, had the possession. Alfarolito, you saw what they wanted to do. They wanted to launch long balls. They wanted to find Denver Benson and get him behind the back line. And the Republic defense was up for that challenge.
So I have to ask Jared, because we were all, the three of us, except for Jared, we were all there. Jared, when some of our subs came on, like Ajago and Mael, did the cameras catch their speed? Because those guys, when they took off, it looked like they were racing against a 2-year-old. You know what I mean? Did it show that?
They were doing their best as far as trying to keep up because, he put the pedal to the metal on the floor. He definitely reminded me of the old Maserati on the field from a few years back. But, yeah, he was definitely quick. He just maneuvered perfectly, knew where to get to. This is speed that we've missed. Attack speed. This is what we need. And the fact that he's going there and finishing, another thing that we need, finishing off these opportunities that we have. This is just great ball work from Ajago. I'm glad he was subbed in when he was. Granted, it could have been a little bit earlier. Maybe we might have gotten something in during regulation, but just the fact that he got, the work done in the extra time and we needed it. That's already a blessing. That's already a return on investment.
So what about Bonner? Did his speed and technique show up well? And Devin Kerr and Mike Watts called the game. So I'm sure that they were very glowing when they talked about Bonner, because his bottom operating was 8.4. So he was like the star of the show. And, with Lee Desmond right behind him, which we agree with. Lee Desmond, you have no idea. He's like a fan freaking favorite. But Bonner, and then Mael Malongo. Malongo is like the thoroughbred that doesn't need 3 strides to get fast. He is fast on the first stride. Did that show up? Did Bonner skill and ability and speed show up as well as Malongo's? Did both of those show up well on the television?
I would say so. Just to see Bonner. He's definitely trying to have a breakout season this year. He's had his first taste of living la vida indomita. So this is a good way for him to just get more into it. And Malongo, I got high hopes for Malongo. He did some good work. He got a good bit of speed here and there. I think everything is going to be going up for both Bonner and Malongo this season. They're the two to watch.
So, Luis, I don't mean to bogart this, but there was also an interview post-game where Coach talked about Kyle Edwards. Did everybody see that and hear that little bit? About Kyle Edwards was critical in creating chances because he was drawing, things towards him. And also he's fast. He's kind of like he was a little bit of an unspoken hero, even though it was not super obvious all the time what he was doing. Apparently, the coach noticed. Did you guys see that little interview? If you didn't,
No.
Luis, it's on Instagram. I don't know if you can pull that up at some point.
Quick thoughts on the match tonight. Good to advance in the cup.
A lot to digest about that. I think the biggest thing is we're through to the next round. Always the objective in a cup competition, get through to the next round. We didn't want to have extra time, but we managed to see that through, and I think the big story for me tonight's about the young players, 2 professional debuts. Again, that's not going to be a game that they're going to see too often like that, but you know, that'll certainly give them a bit of experience to stand them in good stead for the rest of their careers.
Took the words out of my mouth. Not many sports allow you to grow up in your hometown and get onto the pro field for your hometown club and pull on the shirt. Can you talk a little bit about what you might have said to those guys going into this game?
You know, I think when you're in that opportunity moment, that you just got to let them go and experience it, enjoy it. I think the worst thing you can do is try and say too much, do too much. It's just going. They're there on merit. They've done it because they've earned the opportunity, and they'll get more opportunities in the future.
What's that say about our academy system?
I think it says a lot. The club's got a good history of getting academy players in this team. To have 3 professionals, you know, in Davian, Chebby and Blake, but then also Rohan, academy contract. It just shows that we want to win. That's our objective, but we also want to do it by getting young players in the team.
You bring Forrester in to score goals, and the first guy he celebrates is with the gaffer. Got to mean a lot, but you've talked a lot about his role with the team in the past couple of days. You want to elaborate on what that moment means?
Yeah, listen, it's funny because Kyle got his first goal after Foster kind of wore them down for 70 minutes, and then tonight Kyle does a lot of the donkey work, and then Foster gets on, gets 2 goals, and that's going to stand him in really good stead, and he deserves it. He's working hard, he's a great team player, but I think if you give the work that he's given, he's going to get the rewards with the goals like he did tonight.
What he's doing is he's comparing Kyle Edwards with Ajago and saying, you know, how Kyle did this, and then in the same breath he's talking about Ajago. So I thought that was fair, a little fair analysis.
But another player I want to point out, you guys haven't mentioned him yet, Chivi. Chivi had quite the match, right? I mean, there was been one moment where Chivi didn't seem like he was a defender. He seemed like he was more of a midfielder. If you guys remember, he took on a guy there, and he had a pretty good, you know, play. He almost seemed like he could have just kept going from there on. But yeah, he played quite a game. I think he was pretty confident out there, and I'm glad that he was able to start the match. The other guy you guys briefly mentioned him, Blake Willie. I mean, Jared had confidence he was going to start the match, hence why he predicted that first yellow card. But it was great to see them. Now, and we kind of spoke about this at halftime, Sharon. Davian, though. I think we had more expectations maybe from Davian. Now it is like maybe the first game he starts with us. But still, he wasn't really that great out there. At least I didn't really see the Davian that I thought we would see, especially against a side like El Farolito. I think it was his opportunity to shine, you know, against them.
Well, I would defer to my stat man to let us know if DK had some effectiveness statistically. It seemed like there were times where we really saw what he was doing and working the ball kind of off onto the leftish side in the central. You know, it was interesting who he was playing off of and who he was feeding the ball to. There were times where I think some of his pass accuracy wasn't spot on. But, I mean, come on. He's 16. And he's playing against grown-ass men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in here. I want to shout out the guy who was sitting next to me in the press box, Abram from Tectonic Takes. He was out there writing for MPSL at the time, but he is Mexican and he's been following the development of Kimbrough from like a Mexican team's perspective. And we were talking about his development, and we were thinking like in the match we weren't seeing him where we were expecting him. We wanted to see him, you know, get the ball and run, but we didn't kind of see that. We saw him, you know, being a distributor, which is great, but I don't think that's where he excelled, and we didn't get to see that. We saw some flashes. He got some decent runs down the wing, but I don't think that game is a best reflection of what Kimbrough can do.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, he wasn't in the right position, but yeah, I mean, I think for this game, it must have been a little difficult, right, to figure out where to place all the players, right? I mean, you had a mixture of both. I will say that I was surprised that we saw a lot of starters, right, in the lineup. I don't know how you guys felt about not seeing Jacob though, right? Like what happened there? We were all under the impression. I mean, everyone would have said Jacob is going to be the cup goalkeeper, but then we were surprised to see Danny, especially in this first round, right, in the Open Cup. What do you guys think like happened there?
Let's just face it. We had to beat El Farolito. We know the chaos that they do. We know their tactics. Even we predicted they might get a goal against us. So I think I think Coach Neal and the goalkeeper coach, they loaded for bear. They did not want to lose this match. This was so important for Hardware at the end of the season. Jacob, all right, in the preseason friendly that we saw and Jacob started, we all saw, and in all fairness, not all the blame goes to Jacob because he was blindsided on a couple of the things. But at the end of the day, I think I get a sense that he's not quite at the level that a second year Mazzola was. I think he's getting there. But I mean, at the end of the day, we have to interview the coaches to find out what they're thinking and what they're saying. We don't have that yet. So somebody needs post game. Somebody needs to ask Coach Neal what's going on. And I don't know if in the interview anybody asked why not Jacob.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear. What his thoughts are, right? Because if we see Danny in this first match, I think we see Danny across all of Open Cup, right? It wouldn't make sense to put Jacob in a match against an MLS squad.
No. But I think we'll see Jacob in the USL Cup, the Prinks Tire, formerly known as Jägermeister. I think we'll see Jacob then.
Yep.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I think he needs to have playing time, right? I mean, of course, if it was up to us, we would have Danny in every single match. But I worry because that's a lot of like pressure on him, right? Not to mention like a lot of games back and forth. So you have to have that rotation in the cup. At least that's how I see it. Again, Danny might end up being like good playing all the games, but it just you run the risk, right, of like an injury, and we wouldn't want that to happen because he's being forced to play in all the cups. So I really hope USL Cup he's the goalkeeper. And if he makes his mistakes, well, you know what happened in the USL Cup, not in the USL Championship playoff match, right? So, and plus we have more matches too, right? So it's not one match. So there's that. Now let's talk a little bit more about the subs, right? We know that we get an extra sub because in extra time, the rule, maybe not as of recently, right? But not too long ago, we actually found out that we can actually do an extra sub in overtime. And of course, all the subs are used except goalkeeper there. And we could see here if you're watching on the screen. So we used 6 subs. We saw Michel Benitez, Rohan, which we wish him the best of wishes so he can recover as quickly as he's able to. Yeah, I mean, we know what happened. It was really, I don't know how to even describe just how it felt looking at him there, especially being closer to that side and just especially the referee not stopping the match. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, and then we also saw Mark, which we'll speak about here shortly because yeah, I think his behavior wasn't up to the standards that at least I assumed he had. Now, Sharon, you were actually telling us that he doesn't really last too long in the squads he's been with, right? It seems like he's there for a year, he leaves, and so I didn't know he had any issues or any disciplinary issues, but...
Well, we don't know this for sure. We don't know this for sure. This is just speculation that, he's done a few stints. I don't know if Rion has his pedigree pulled up that quickly, but when you look at how long a guy stays at a club and he bops around, okay, it's like so what's behind that? Is that his choice? All of that. I would have thought he would have been at San Jose a little longer than he was, and he's a fabulous pickup. So I said in the run up that he does a good job intimidating midfielders and strikers coming at him. Nobody wants to get near him because they know they're going to get clocked. They know they're going to get bumped. They know they're going to get pulled on. They know what he's capable of, and he's huge. Let's face it. Would you guys want to go up against him? Heck no, right? So once he does his job, that's his role. So now he's kept the play away from wherever he is. Nobody's going to want to be near him, and if they see him coming, they're going to get rid of the ball. So our team is getting used to his physicality and what he brings. However, that physicality also comes with a little bit of flair and a little bit of bravado. Sometimes those sorts of things can get one in trouble. You need to let your captain do the talking. We said this in the chat. You need to let Lee get involved with dissent or concerns. And that's what I believe has caused an issue for him at this point. If he gets cautioned or whatever, sometimes it's his mouth. So they'll work all this out. I have all the faith in the world that it'll get worked out. But I'm wondering if maybe those were some of the aspects of his play prior in other clubs that caused things to move on. Neil will stand for just what he only is looking for. So he'll fix it. I have all the faith in Eric and Neil and Martine and all the guys that are working with the squad. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, it was just something that was really unfortunate, right? The red card, 100% preventable. He didn't have to do what he did. I mean, I'll go to you, Rian, now, since you and Sharon had a perspective where you could see more of what exactly happened that led to his red card. So can you tell us more of what happened? Because I mean, I was on the other side, so it's kind of hard to see. Like, I didn't even know it got a red card.
Yeah. I kind of hold a different stance. I kind of like the spiciness of the players. It's fun a little bit, I like a little bit of rowdiness to our players. You don't normally see that. They're kind of the players that you hate to see against you, but you kind of like when they're playing for you. But in terms of what actually transpired, so Ajago scores the second goal off the deflection from the keeper. And I'm looking over at Ajago, and then all of a sudden I see Kay running across the field, across the El Farolito bench, and then with a El Farolito player closely in tow behind him. And then all of a sudden a brawl, just benches clear, everybody meets in the middle. I'm like, oh, okay, something definitely happened here. And that's what I saw from my perspective. But I like the little spiciness. There is something to be said about Sacramento maintaining their composure for the majority of the match. I mean, you saw them argue with the ref, but that's to be expected in these soccer matches. But when it came clear that Sacramento was going to end up as the victors, that you saw the gloating kind of pop out a little bit. And I can't say I wouldn't do the same thing if I was in Mark Anthony Kay's shoes. I like a little bit of a gloat, You see me on this podcast gloating about winter chicken dinner, so I can't say this. I can't say
just because we don't have cards here.
I think we should yellow card each other when we're out of line. And I think Jared, who's seems to always be like the, mediator kind of person, I think he needs to hold the yellow and the red cards for us.
Oh, yeah? That would be funny.
I probably still got them in my drawer here somewhere from the stickers, whatnot. So I'll have to dig those up.
Yeah, because I think Rian should be getting yellow card cautions for gloating, because he kind of did this. He does the same thing to our bench when he's getting ahead on podcast chicken winter dinner, or whatever we call it. I forget. Yeah, it's like he's like the Mark Anthony Kay. He swings by the bench, and we all trail after him. We want to get a piece of him, and he's just sitting there with his adjusting his crown. And that's what Mark Anthony Kay did. He literally taunted, and I think it could have been other words. There could have been words that came out of his mouth that caused the red. Because once you taunt and then you incite the bench clearing brawl, so to speak, I don't even know if there's going to be more discipline handed out later. I know they did the on-field discipline, but can you imagine being the official, having to write up the report after the game? How do you write? And then our own people have to write up a report after the game and submit everything. It's crazy. It's there's a lot of work that happens when that sort of stuff goes down. And to have our GM president Tim Holt come out, at first I thought, oh my God, he's not going to be happy with anything that's happening. But I understand that he actually was very supportive and he was very concerned. And I think he really was on the side of all of us. I shouldn't say us, meaning the fans, but he always is. But I think he embraced his squad, his technical staff, his front office staff, the field staff. I think we've got a real winner of a person who can help kind of get us past some of this sort of stuff and get everybody back on track. My understanding is I'm not certain that the team trained today so that they could have, a little breather. I not 100% on that, but somebody mentioned, a friend of mine mentioned that when they saw a couple of our players walking off, they kind of our players looked like they were in a little bit of shock after the whole melee and after dust kind of settled. And when you see a situation like that, or when you're in a situation like that, the adrenaline goes so high that when it starts to drop, you actually have a feeling left over and you will feel a little bit in shock. There is a little bit of a miniature trauma, not that it's, those sort of situations will have an impact, and it's good that, we take a breath, and that even as fans that we take a breath, and we don't want to ever see that again, because we don't want to have our kids exposed to that. If you have kids, you don't want to have your friends, if they've not been to a game and they come to a game and that's what they saw, they're going to leave with a feeling. I mean, you could even hear Michelle Dapper in her report, the KCRA, because she's the sports, the head of
Director.
sports. Yeah, thank you, Director. Thank you. And in her report, you could hear in her voice that it wasn't a pleasant situation for her. And she does sports all the time, right? So anyhow, off on a tangent. I know we were really wanting to talk about Ajago's goals. Didn't we want to get back to that? Don't we have those queued up?
Yeah.
Before we go to the goals, I do want to throw in a quote from US Soccer about this real quick.
Thank you.
Quote, this is from USA Today. Quote, we are aware of an incident that occurred yesterday and are reviewing all relevant information. The matter will be referred to the U.S. Open Cup adjudication and disciplinary panel, which will evaluate the situation and determine any actions it deems appropriate under U.S. soccer policies. A safe environment for everyone attending and participating in Open Cup matches remains one of our highest priorities. End quote.
Yeah, that says a lot. And I don't know. I really hope this doesn't happen, but I feel like we run the risk of being sanctioned as to not be able to host the next round or not having the opportunity. I really hope it doesn't get to that point, but we run the risk because of what happened.
So the only reason why that might be a scenario is, the response from security or whatnot, but it wasn't us that did the brawling. It was El Farolito. They lost their shit, right? So, So it's not necessarily, it's not on us, I don't think it'll be on us. However, we'll just see where the chips fall. I don't want to get too fearful. And at the end of the day, Luis, even if we don't host, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes we do better when we're away. So, I'm not,
we saw it.
yeah, I'm not that worried about whatever happens. What I am worried about is if there are additional penalties or, like cards or anybody getting like suspended for multiple matches. That would be a concern for me. But then again, we just adjust. we simply adjust.
Yeah, which I wouldn't be surprised if Mark gets sanctioned with more than one match, just based on what started everything, right? Because I feel like that was the spark to start.
Mark Anthony K? Nah.
Yeah,
Nah.
the situation, because it all happened after that. I
No.
feel like they might be like that was the root that made everything. Yeah, but
I
still,
can tell you and your uncle were talking on the way home. Nah.
But still, though, just one more thing on this. I just think that for a player of his caliber, you shouldn't lose your head and get a red card like that. Would have been great to have him for the following round. I know we're not going to play against an MLS team for the next round, but come on, you're in the Open Cup. You want to have those players that have that like top level playing experience, and you have to know better than to get yourself a red card that way. But yeah, that happened. Real quick, we did see also Memo get subbed in. I was wondering what happened, why he got subbed out. I wonder if it's just because of the yellow card he got, but I thought it was kind of interesting to see Memo get subbed out. Do you guys know, there
may have been an injury. He got slide tackled off onto the sideline. There was a tackle that occurred. You probably couldn't see it from where you were. It was right in front of the table, the scorers table, the fourth official. It was right there, and I think he did his best to keep going. My hunch is he picked up a bit of a knock, and I think they were probably just playing it safe on him. That's my guess. I don't know if that's true or not, or if it was subbed to yellow. If that were the freaking case, they would have subbed Blake Willie. They didn't, because they know that Blake won't pull a second. So at the end of the day, I think it may have been the situation over by, you saw that right, Rayon, where he kind of got knocked into the bench or into the table.
There were so many tackles, they all kind of just blended together at some point.
Oh my God. And then so many missed calls. We need to see the Ajago goals though, because this is the one where I get to eat crow, because I was telling you guys one thing and then I rewatched it. And the second goal, the first goal was magic. Second goal was even the most bizarre goal I've seen. That's something that you see on like weirdo highlight reels. Luis, you're always sending us these like weirdo goals being scored. This would be one you would send us.
Oh yeah.
The second goal was so delicious, though. I mean that thing was better than a triple X brisket sandwich from Buc-ee's by how good that was. I mean, we'll go into this first goal, of course, but yeah, I can't wait for it.
The second goal was just as good as the Interlude Restaurant's affogato dessert, and that is like my favorite.
Well, the state of the food making a comeback today. That's cool. All right, well, let's talk about the first goal here. We went to overtime. We scored it really early on in overtime, right? I mean, it was the 95th of overtime, which I was joking with my uncle saying, well, if the ref would have given the time he should have given in the second half for extra time, this game wouldn't have gone to overtime. It would have been a whole different game, because I think it was only a matter of time before we would actually get the goal. So I'll just put that out there. This could have happened just the time that we were playing in the second half. But anyway, great run by Dom, right? You guys spoke highly of him earlier. Yeah, I mean, he was really impressive. Glad he got to start the match. You could really see the impact he was having on the game. But he places a perfect cross over to Ajago, and Ajago, he knows where to put himself. Thankfully, the El Farolito defender kind of lost track of where Ajago was at, and yeah, he places a perfect header right where the goalkeeper could never get to it, because the goalkeeper was not in the right place there. So yeah, that was the first goal, and then he went to go celebrate with the bench afterwards.
That was beauty. The celebration with the bench was beautiful. However, I will say their goalkeeper normally would have probably saved that had Ajago not gotten higher than the goalkeeper could have saved that ball, because all night long their goalkeeper was freaking parrying things left and right. I thought the dude played volleyball because he was doing such a good job with his parries, and he does want to elevate his game. He wants to go higher. And just so you know, the two goalkeepers and Danny all are kind of from the same. Is it an academy, Rion? Jared, they took a photo after the match together because they're all part of the same group. And I know it's not West Coast goalkeeping, and there's another one, and they're all part of a group together. So they took a photo. Those guys are going to be good. Their keepers are going to be good. This particular keeper, rare that he would miss something like this. But then the second goal was just heartbreaking. We'll see it in a second.
Yeah, Sharon, you mentioned the El Farolito keeper. We also saw he wasn't playing this match, but the last year's keeper for El Farolito was also like a solid shot stopper, and it carries through with this one. In terms of the goal, we went into the season thinking Sacramento Republic was going to play down the middle the entire time, and yet here we are with more crosses being sent in and very successful so far. Ajago is a huge target to aim at, and he makes it look so effortless, rising up to the cross and just heading it home like that. Crazy. Great goal.
Yeah, made it look easy. Now, Jared, it was getting really late for you, right? From this goal, but
Yeah, it was already in the 11 o'clock hour out here in Kilgore, but just being able to finally see some action like this gave me hope that, we can finally put this game to bed. I mean, let's just get this 1-0 and just park the bus, park the 67 and 68 out there, maybe a 51 for a good measure, and let's just end this match. But, I mean, the positioning on this was beautiful. I mean, we don't see many headers for Republic FC. I mean, we could probably count the number of headers we've seen Roro alone do on one hand, so probably less than that. But this was amazing. Ajago got in the right spot, got past that goalkeeper, which he was definitely doing a hell of a job for the majority of the match for El Farolito. I'm not going to lie.
I want to add in here a little bit. Jared, you mentioned that you wanted this match to end at some point. I was in the press box just standing up, being as animated as possible, just praying that Sacramento can, at the end of regulation, just end it somehow, please. We always seem to be in these contests where it's always a close game against the amateur team, and it's like, what, Sacramento, can we please win one of these games normally for once?
It's at that point that, yes, we know they stopped alcohol serving after so many minutes. They need to increase the Red Bull purchases after so many minutes, especially going into extra time like this.
You guys, there was one point in the match where the Tower Bridge Battalion was dead quiet, and the whole stadium was dead quiet. I mean, we're talking dead quiet. Rihanna, I don't know if you could hear me, but I'm like going, it's too quiet. And so we started chanting from section 105. Did you hear any of that up there?
Yeah, I did. It reminded me of COVID era where it was just the press in the stands, and we could hear, like, it was all quiet except for, the coaches and the players, and you could hear all the trash talking. It reminded me of that time. It was so good. I loved one of the only things I missed from those years.
So you're saying it almost sounded like Birmingham last June, how I could hear Near Collins cursing, even with me as close as I am.
100%. And it was weird because that silence lasted for a while. I figured, if I'm starting to yell, other people will yell. And so I was like, okay, nobody's doing anything, so let's just keep yelling. It was so quiet. It was quiet. That's so rare in Heart Health Park to have it be that quiet.
Yeah, and I will say from our perspective, again, behind the other goal net, you could actually hear that the Farolito players, and people probably couldn't hear this on TV, they were actually harassing their goalkeeper. And it was the most craziest, bizarre thing, hearing some of their players actually yelling at their goalkeeper and saying some unkind words. And we were actually, I was there with my uncle, we were actually yelling back at them like, hey, you should be thankful. Like, this guy is the reason why you guys aren't losing the match, right? Because he had a few good saves. So that was a little strange to me, even at their level, to hear players actually shouting at their goalkeeper when we all know that the goalkeeping position is an extremely difficult one. Like no field player would probably even want to be in their shoes or cleats, or in this case. So, yeah.
Well, and that was before we started to score them. Then that was earlier, when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's see
That's
the
the weird
second.
thing.
Let's see the second goal.
Let's go ahead and move on to the second goal. Happened pretty much in the 121st minute of sorts there. I will say the referee, I think, hadn't really given extra time, right? Or we hadn't been really aware of what the extra time was going to be. They didn't even put it on the screen. But who else but Forster Jago doing what we've said this before. We want the players to put that pressure up, to never give up, right? Especially when the goalkeeper gets the ball, you go right at them because you never know, right? Goalkeepers can mess up, give a wrong pass, even if you're not the one to get the ball, it's one of your teammates that gets it. And that's exactly what he did. And actually, before I play the goal here, I do want to add, I know it wasn't mentioned yet, when Jago gets subbed in, I don't know if you guys noticed, but he was so eager to get subbed in that he was already like running in right even before, I think it was Edwards, right, that he got subbed in for. Even before Edwards was out, the man was ready to just like make a big sprint in. That's the kind of attitude we want to see from any player that's getting subbed in. Now, taking a look at the goal again, he gets in front of the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper tries to like place a long shot, but he gets to it before him, and of course he just basically just knocks into the ball. And the ball just goes in, right? He doesn't have to do anything else but just watch as the ball just rolls on in. And then you could see me and my uncle in the background there going crazy because we go right to the fence. So that was a really great moment to experience right in front.
Yeah, you guys got lucky that you got to see that. It was funny because I didn't remember initially how that play came about, and I thought it was a run of play attack that the goalkeeper had actually picked up, and I thought he had punted the ball. So I was arguing, hey, if he goes to punt the ball, they have to, by rule, not interfere with a punt, with the keeper punting the goal kick, not a goal kick, but a punt out of the box. And then I literally got in my car and I pulled this up and I watched it. And I think on the way home, I was voice texting, hey, I was wrong. I even said it to my sister. I said, hey, I was wrong. I stand corrected. It was literally a pass back from their defender to the keeper who went to clear the ball. And like you said, Luis, Jago being as alert as he was, he just you never know. He got in front of that ball. Yeah, the keeper could have just dinked it around him. Danny's done that a couple times, dinked it around him and then cleared the ball. Well, the keeper didn't. He panicked and he cleared the ball right into Jago. And we know how that ended. This was beautiful. Jago going into the stands and getting celebrated. Now, mind you, he became man of the match for Tower Bridge Battalion, but because of this freaking melee that occurred after the game, he did not get to get his scarf from Tower Bridge Battalion that said man of the match. So hopefully he'll be able to, get that announcement or get that scarf retrieved, or they'll make amends. I know Brian and Chris and them and Adrian and they'll be able to get the scarf to him if they didn't. But what a way to end the game. We've already talked about the melee and the brawl, so we don't necessarily need to see it. But there were 2 ejections that occurred against Farolito right then and there, even though there was one prior, I think. And then our Mark Anthony K, got ejected as well. Now, that being said, the coolest cucumber in the bunch, Freddie Kleeman, I'll have to say, Freddie Kleeman kind of stayed out of the fray.
Birthday boy!
Birthday boy. He knew he needed to celebrate with cake or whatever, so he wanted to make sure he had all the limbs and all of the digits so that he could eat cake. So he stayed out of the fray. I think he ended up kind of coaxing Lee away from, the first pod of people. And then the other person that stayed cool as a cucumber because his job depended on it. He had to gather information. Connor Sutton, cool as a freaking cucumber during this whole thing. If you watch the whole situation, all Connor was looking for was data. And Rion, you can respect that. He was looking for the things that were happening so that he could make the official announcements to inform the audience, the fans, of what was going on. But I can't believe how cool Connor Sutton remained during that whole time, from the start of the brawl that was right in front of them to the very end. It just amazing.
And can we talk about the DJ? DJ was on point.
Mhm.
Oh,
Give that DJ a raise and triple it.
oh my God. When that song, Why Can't We Be Friends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. We in the stands, all of us, Rihanna included, we all died. That was the best thing that could have ever happened. And then they continued playing that type of music all through until they were trying to get us all to leave. Then they cut the music. But you guys, that was something else. That was I
mean, they played Wars. Why Can't We Be Friends? Then they came up with Bob Marley's Three Little Birds.
Yeah.
It even busts out some Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And, of course, the Pièce de Résistance, Closing Time.
Closing time. They were trying to get us all to leave. Nobody wanted to leave, right? So, yeah, the Relax, Don't Do It, right? And that was right about when the players were running out the end. And it was like, oh, my God, they're trying to send a message. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, my God. That DJ must have been in clubs where brawls broke out, you know? So they knew exactly what they needed to do.
Either that or maybe it might have been one of the DJs that I've known from the San Francisco days, maybe even a local DJ like DJ Trip. I'll have to see what he was doing last night.
So I think it was Josh. There's a guy named Josh. The DJ last night, I think his name was I think. I'm not 100%. But whoever he is.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you mentioned it because it was really like spot on. It's almost like he saw it all happen and he already had the song like pictured. He was like, "Wait, I got the song saved here. Like this is the moment for it." But then, of course, shortly after, like you said, they changed the song. Then what we're seeing on the screen happens, right? Just as everything looked like it was already calm, right? I mean, it seemed like okay, they already kind of are talking things through. It's situation's better. Something happens in the stands, right? At this point, we're just hearing different versions, right, of what happened, right? Apparently, a fan threw like a water bottle or water. I took a video from afar, and I actually do see like water being spilled at two different opportunities. And then I'm assuming maybe the bottle is what followed after because I stopped recording. I didn't even realize that. I was just recording from afar until I reviewed my video. But something happened. The players catch onto it. They pull a big sprint. I will say some of the players actually just try and cut through one of our Sacramento Republic staff members, right? The ones that are usually with the flags. One of the players actually just kind of forces his way into. She's like almost trying her best to not get them through, but of course they just push through.
Well,
they go over there.
She was on a knee scooter. She's on a knee scooter. She couldn't do much. And so other ushers came over to help, and then we had a couple security people show up, and the head of security showed up, and then eventually we ended up with the Cal Expo police. But we had plenty of staff down there monitoring the situation, so that was good. And there were plenty of cameras on the situation, so those sorted all out. When a player thought that something was going on with his family in the stands, I can understand. They're not supposed to. But I can understand the response. Rumor has it there was a kid that got pushed or something like that in just fans leaving or departing. And apparently, according to one of our people who was in that section and saw everything, the woman started screaming. And she was from El Farolito. She was a fan or a relative of the players. So when that happened, you hear your spouse or your family member screaming, you're going to run to protect them. It's a natural instinct. I get it, but they need to know, to let other people handle those situations. I don't want to dwell on this, you guys. We can't fix this. It's not for us. It's over. All we're doing is just like gossiping and surmising and all that other stuff. I kind of want to keep celebrating the fact that we've moved on.
Yeah. Can I jump in here real quick just to go back to the first kind of fight and also the Ajago goal. I just want to put out there, if someone has a clip of this, Kleeman was off to the side somewhere. Sharon, I'm glad you mentioned Kleeman. And then there was like a group of El Farolito people like kind of wandering over, trying to calm one of the El Farolito players, and they were wandering in the direction of Kleeman, and Kleeman just saw that and just like lightly jogged out of the way. I hope somebody has a video of that. Please, someone share that. That was amazing to see.
I might have caught that in one of my videos, or my sister might have caught that one too, because they were going after Roro. Roro had actually pulled the conversation. It was the second on field. They didn't capture it on. I don't know if they captured it here, but they show Roro moving away and a bunch of Farolito players and staff going with Roro almost to the top of the penalty box. So that was an odd situation as well. And you see Alex. Oh yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
Alex trying to. She's in charge of the visiting team, and she's nobody you want to contend with. She's she's amazing, and she did her best to try to keep that from flaring. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep talking about it. But that was when Freddie decided, nope, I'm done, and he made the move to stay away from that mess.
Okay, and
Nope.
Oh,
sorry, not to. I just now you mentioned Freddie. There was another detail that I'm wondering what happened. Maybe Sharon, you heard. Maybe there's an order of like, hey, just let's leave the field. When the players after the game, right, when they go and walk, this is after I think this moment here before the Farolito players go up. They're walking towards us, right, as they usually do, right? Walk towards like Tower Bridge, just thank the fans, all that stuff. The players are kind of distant from all of us, right? They're applauding. Some of the players are dancing. Well, our side, right? The fans are calling them like, hey, come over here, like, hey, just come over here. The players start walking back, but Freddie, it was really funny to me, right? Because Freddie wanted to go, but then he turns around and he's kind of like looking like back, like, hey, guys, are we going to go over there? Are we not? And he was kind of like in the middle of like, should I go? But my teammates are like leaving, like, but we should go. He ends up just following his teammates, but we were all left wondering, like, what happened there? Was there an order from the team to not go that way?
Roro, Lee, and Danny were trying to get the players back onto their half that they, by their own bench side. Yes. Mm-hmm. So there was all of that trying to bring everybody back to the half, beyond the half circle, to get back, because they figured it would continue the taunt if our players went over onto the El Farolito bench side of the field. So Roro, everybody gave them the instructions to get back, and so that was what started that.
Okay, but I will give kudos to Freddie for thinking about going, because you could see he felt bad, like I should go and thank them. But yeah, sorry, Rion, you can mention the second point.
Yeah. Okay, so back to Ajago's second goal, because that is really what we should be celebrating. 999,999 times you see a striker go up and press the keeper and nothing comes of it. The keeper will make a move. The keeper will shoot, like put it away somewhere else. This is the time. This is the reason why you keep doing it, because most times nothing comes of this. This is an absurd goal, Sharon. I think your confusion is just due to how absurd this goal is. This is the reason why you keep pressing the keeper, because one time they will fuck up and suddenly you get a goal. Like, props to Ajago for continuing to press, continuing to bring that enthusiasm and energy deep in the game, and he gets rewarded for it.
Man, I still say that second goal from Ajago even more delicious than the almond croissant I had at Freeport Bakery last week. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, you do not see goals like this. I mean, there were so many folks that were hyping up the El Farolito goalkeeper. Oh, we kept Sacramento at bay for over 100 plus minutes. It's plays like this that entirely unravel it. Not clearing the ball, pulling a Shuttleworth, if you will, resulting in even further away, the lead that Republic FC took, giving Ajago his first brace. And once again, we have a new dentist in the building with Forster Ajago. But such a beautiful F-up goal.
Yeah, he completed his dentistry at a really early point in the season, right? And that's great because it gives him that confidence, and we're going to hopefully see him score some more goals in the league, right? And surprise some of us in our podcast winner dinner predictions, because I think it was easy for us to go the Malongo or Edwards route, right?
So speaking of podcast winner dinner, what a lovely segue, Luis. And I know Rion does not want to talk about it, and maybe I don't either. But I think we need to talk about that. I think we need to segue straight into something fun.
Yeah, I do want to go to podcast winner dinner. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So as we all know, with the U.S. Open Cup, there are a lot of opportunities for points, and a lot were given out in this match. So Sharon got 2 points, guess Blake as the first yellow, and no 2 PKs for extra time. Jared got 2 points. He said a Farolito first yellow, no penalty kicks. I got 4 points, guess the goal scorer, guess the first yellow card, guess the first player to get the first yellow card, and then no to penalty kicks. And then in a moment that this rarely happens, right? Rion only got 1 point, all because we didn't go to penalty kicks in the shootout. So with that, the standings have changed here. Again, I said a few days it might change. I'm actually leading the way, first place, 6 points. Then you got Jared and Rion with 4 points, and then Sharon is still there in the basement with 3 points. So hopefully you've made it at least home-like, right, Sharon? But Rion, though, is now above your floor. So
Don't flush. You guys
I'm
don't
still eating
flush.
Taco Bell. Sorry.
We all know that the basement was like, I got the worst plumbing, and it's just like not a fun place. And you know how competitive I am. And Tina, if you're listening, I need to change something around here. These guys, Luis has doubled my score already. He's at 6, I'm at 3. I have half. I'm at half. And that's not fair. Last season, at this point, there was no way. I was like ahead of the pack. Well, I don't know really if I was or wasn't, but I think I was. I was like, fairly good. This year, 3 games in, I suck. Is it 3 games? Are we at 3 games or only 2?
Yeah.
3.
Well, I wouldn't really say the trophy's going to be making its way down to Stanislaus County just yet. I mean, this is only the 3rd game in all competitions. Granted, if it gets within sniffing distance of Texas, then it's time to worry.
Yeah.
Well, okay, whatever.
Not that far off. And remember, we have USL Cup as well. So the points are just like out there for the winning, right? That's all that goes. But just as a reminder to everyone, we did our predictions in the last podcast for this Saturday's game against Monterey Bay. Sharon 2-0, Jared 2-1. I said 1-0, Rion 2-0. So, I mean, Rion and Sharon have the same final score line, but we'll see what happens there.
Look at who Rion picked for a goal scorer. What a great pick is that?
Yeah, Jago for the first goal. So, and he might actually start, right? I mean, he did get subbed in, right? So,
yeah. And I'm hopeful. Okay, so we highlighted 4 of the academy guys that were playing last night. If we were allowed more players on the roster, I think we would have seen 5 academy guys. But I think the rule changed from last year this year as to how many players you can have on the roster. I think it dropped from 23 or 22 down to 18 or 19. I would have to look it up, and I know Rihanna will beat me to it. The rules for the Open Cup roster. So to make a long story short, I think we would have seen, could have seen 5, but hopefully we'll see Luke this weekend. Anyhow.
Oh yeah, Jared's hopeful. I know Jared had him in his prediction.
Yeah.
And I think that would be good, right? I mean, after a match like this where some players had to play 120 minutes, they need a good break
Yeah.
for overall. But
Well, it's
all
good
right,
seeing
well-
you guys after a match like that.
sorry, what would you say? You kind of cut off for a second there, or at least
Oh,
on my side.
I did Elsa. Okay. I said it's sure good seeing you guys after a match like that.
Yeah, especially after we were trying to figure out what had just happened, right? I mean, even to us, it was a big shock. Even more to us, I think we're on the end lines trying to figure out what exactly was happening on that side and hoping that everyone was okay. I mean, when you see the players move up there, I mean, we heard it from your sister, right, Sharon? Even her husband was asking her, "Are you okay?" Because even, I mean, Jared, I'm sure you saw the players go up. You're like, "Hey,
Oh,
let us
yeah.
know if that's okay," because they're going up. Like, we have no idea what they're going to be capable of doing when they go up there.
Yeah, even my father-in-law, he popped in for like just after the players had gotten like settled away in the middle of the field, and then the camera started pointing towards the bleachers. I mean, he was watching all this happen as well at the same time as I was. Hearing Mike Watson, Devin Kerr, discuss what was going on. I mean, I don't think I've seen anything like that. I mean, at least for Republic FC. I mean, it was just flabbergasting, and they were stunned as well, just watching all this transpire on national TV.
Yeah.
Hey, there's always a first for everything. Anyhow, we need to wrap this up. We're getting long in the tooth.
All right, y'all. Last final parting words here. We say have a good night, good morning, and then you'll hear from us here next week in a few days. Actually, no, at this point. Let's go with you, Sharon, first.
Oh, final parting words. Hey, freaking go Republic and, get some rest in the next day or two. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and watching or listening. Really appreciate the support for one of two fan-based podcasts.
Yeah, go to the website, check out the match recap. I have it up live already. Round 2 for the Open Cup draw will be happening this Friday. It will not be live, so US Soccer is just going to announce the matchups. It'll be geographic based, so top 3 opponents that we might see are Valley FF9, who upset AB Alta, Orange County, or possibly Spokane Velocity. Those are my guesses. Other than that, onwards and go Republic.
Tune in next time as we see the possibility of Dr. Rajago having another brace, or do we have another specialist working on the wisdom teeth? Find out this Saturday against Monterey Bay FC, and go Republic.
That was great. I think that earned intro of the episode, right? Right there. Well, as for me, again, we saw a interesting match. I mean, one for the history books yesterday. We move on. Open Cup. We're going to be looking forward to hearing who we play against on Friday. But thanks to everyone who watched, who had to stay up late, or who was at the stadium. That was really great. And also a shout out to everyone who has been listening to our episodes. That Lee interview continues to rack up the listens by the day. So we appreciate you. And if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to that Lee interview. Share it with your friends. Get the word out. We are going to be doing more interviews. We have a list of players that we're going to be interviewing. So keep an eye out for that, because that'll happen here in the next month or two. We'll be having more of those. So awesome. With that being said, y'all, have a good morning, good night, whenever you're listening or watching, and you'll hear us in a few days here on Stay There Public Podcast.
Cue the music.